Hey folks, welcome back to Jumping for Joy with Justin. Today we're going to be talking about making cool little things like this that you could use on your spread, because this is something we'd love for you to do. Get creative with your cutouts. So I'm going to start by just hiding this background thing that I made. If you haven't watched my video on how to make a cutout, or you might already know how to make a cutout, so make a cutout. You got your cutout. I just have this background color as gray because I thought it looked nice. So I'm going to show you how to make that thing that I just had. And it's a little bit harder than you might think, but it's not too hard. It just takes a few steps. So first of all, if I want, it's a little bit counterintuitive. If I want the cool design, I think we're going to call it a pixel stretch. If we want the pixel stretch to be to the left of him here, we're going to actually start with him on the left side. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press Option and then the left arrow. So that just made a copy right over here of that smart object that I had. And it put it 1 pixel to the left. And this doesn't need to be a smart object anymore. So I can right click and say rasterize layer. That just makes it not a smart object. Then I have this nice copy over here. And to make that pixel stretch, what we're going to do is we're going to make a bunch of copies of this layer right here. So I'm going to select this layer, and this time I'm going to press Option Shift left arrow, and that's going to make it actually 10 pixels to the left. And I'm just going to keep doing that. And my computer is pretty fast, so it does this pretty well, but you might have some issues making so many layers quickly. It'll just take a while to load. So I'm just going to keep doing this, and doing it, and doing it. Let's give it 65 copies. So I just made a lot of layers. And what we're going to do with this top layer is actually press Command and then click it. So that actually selected the top layer. And then we're going to be able to get rid of this top, because we don't want to actually see him to make the pixel stretch. So what I'm going to do is select all of these layers that I just made. Not the original one. We don't need to do anything with that yet. I'm going to turn that one off because we don't need to see him. We're going to still have him in the image later. And I'm going to press Command E to merge them. You can also do right click and say merge layers. Okay, so those are all one layer now. Now I have the him selected still. I'm going to just delete that because we don't want him. We want this, only this. And you know what? I'm seeing down here that there's a little bit of a gap here. So I'm going to go back and make just a few more layers. Just Command Z everything, and keep going to this guy. Option Shift left arrow, make more. Okay, that should be plenty. So we're going to do the same thing. Select all of these layers. Command E. And delete. Okay, perfect. So now what we're going to want to do is, I can deselect that, I don't need that anymore. Is we want to, right now it looks kind of cool, but we want it to be a lot more streamlined than this. So what I'm going to do is end up using this tool, this single column marquee tool. And as it says, it makes a vertical selection that's a single pixel wide. So if we were able to get this all in one vertical line, we could make a selection and get all of the colors from that selection, basically. So what I'm going to do is, actually just to help myself, I'm going to go find a line. And I think I'm going to shoot for the middle being here, because I don't want to have to move this too much. So I'm going to hold Shift as I go up to make sure this is 90 degrees. And I'm going to kind of draw myself a little bit of a guide. So there's a guide up there. And here's a guide down here. It doesn't have to be perfect, but okay. So I was on it automatically selects the other layer, so I'm going to go back to this one. Okay, so I know all of this should be within this line. So I'm going to use this rectangular marquee tool. It's like a rectangular selection tool. That's what I would have called it. And I'm just going to go in and move stuff. so that it's actually within the line. So yeah, I want that, and I want this all within the line. That should be good. Okay, looks good all the way down here until here. So we're gonna go make another selection of all of the stuff that's right in here. And actually I want his hand, so I'm just gonna select his hand too. I want a little bit of color from there, and instead of just moving it, I'm gonna hold shift and move it. Oh. Should be able to hold shift and move it. Yep, and then it's going to move it in a straight line for me. Okay. So that looks good for now. If I end up having any issues when I actually do the thing, when I actually use this tool, I will go back and fix them. But for now, that looks good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this single column marquee tool just right on the line. And you can do this a number of ways. I'm just going to copy that selection, Command C. I'm going to make a new layer down here and paste it onto that layer. So I can hide this for now because I don't need that anymore. And I'm going to work with just this layer. I can get rid of the line because I don't need it anymore. You see I have this very thin layer of just color. And what I can do is select that, press Command T for free transform, and I can just bring it out. And oh, it didn't do anything, but I have to click the check up here or just press enter. And look at that. We have all these nice colors now. That's great. And if I were to, I can delete this now because I don't need that anymore. I'm just going to work with this. If I were to bring him up and over here, I want him on top of the layer. And I can move this so that we can get everybody in the frame here. Look at that. So that's great for now, but we want to add something more to it. I'm not going to do the exact thing that I did earlier, but I'll mess with this a little bit. So we're going to go back, press Command T for free transform. You can also think there's a little bit of a, I think you could say edit free for transform. That'll get you there too. And what we're going to use is the warp mode up here. So I'm going to click this, and now we're in warp mode. So anything I drag is going to like move it based on these little anchor points up here. And I actually, before I do warp mode, I'm going to make sure that this goes all the way out here, because I want to really see like from the middle of the basketball. That looks good. Okay. So we're going to go back into warp mode, and let's start having fun. You don't really want to move these because these are where your image is really coming from. And I might hide all this later. That's to the right of the middle of his body at least. But what could we do? Well, maybe I want to move this down, create kind of like a wisp there. If you really want to get creative, you can move these up and around. Or, just don't make it look too crazy, because we are still trying to show something a little bit natural here. But like even something a little bit creative like that might look cool. It shows that kind of Fairview red and white. I like the colors. I think I could even move this down a little bit if I want to. And I'm not going to spend too much time on this because you can really play with it based on your image. But I think that looks okay for now. It looks a little bit weird with that there. So this looks cool. It's the effect that we wanted. I don't really like how it's still gray down here. I probably moved this a little bit too far, but I'm not too worried about it for now. I could always crop that off later. And then the final thing that I'm going to do is just hide some of this, because I don't like this color. I want it to kind of come off of him going this way, as if it's like a swoosh. So I'm going to put a layer mask there. And remember, anything that's white on a layer mask is visible. Anything that's black on a layer mask is not. So I'm going to click B for my brush tool, X to switch between black and white. And I'm just going to paint, I kind of want a harder brush than this though. I'm just gonna paint so that we get rid of this. And I'd go through and be a lot more careful with it if I was actually doing this for a spread. But that looks pretty good. Yeah, and have fun with this. You can make it unique. You can do something a little different. Yeah, you could even, if you really wanted to, you could paint some shadows in here, like with a little bit, make like an adjustment layer, and then paint it on with a brush, something like that. Cool.